الخير لكل مشاهدينا، مساء الخير لمشاهدي واتساب ميديا نتورك. برنامج هي بيسلط الضوء على نجاح المرأة العربية الأمريكية بكل المجالات. ضيفتي اليوم هي ضيفة مميزة، هي المحامية فدوى حمود، واللي دخلت التاريخ كأول مسلمة وأول عربية أمريكية تعين لمنصب محامي الاستئناف العام بولاية ميشيغن. فخليكن معنا بحوار مع فدوى حمود اللي وصلت أو هاجرت على أمريكا بعمر ال 11 سنة، واللي أصبحت اليوم من صانعي القرار بولاية ميشيغن. Welcome to HEYA. My guest has an outstanding personality that has worked tirelessly for decades and earned her status as the Solicitor General for the state of Michigan. This status makes her the first Muslim Arab American to obtain this outstanding position. Her name is Fadwa Hammoud. She is a graduate of Wayne State University Law School and a former member of the Harvard Business Young American Leaders Program. It is a delight to have the opportunity to conduct this interview with her, to know what motivates her and what has inspired her over the year in a stressful and relentless environment. I'd like to welcome the Solicitor General of Michigan, Fadwa Hammoud, and we'll be right back.
The One, we are business consultants who equip leaders to lead at their highest level while building teams that work together and support their team and the leadership. We deliver customized business solutions that fit your company's needs, including business development and customized process solutions. Contact us today. Thank you.
مساء الخير مجددا and welcome to HEYA. I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Well, thank you. It's an honor being here, and it feels like home.
Good, good.
So I'm very excited to be here.
I am so happy that you are here with us today to share your journey to success and to talk about your life. So you are the first Muslim and the first Arab American Solicitor General in the nation. And not only that, you're the first woman to obtain this position in Michigan's history. What does this success mean to you?
When we talk about our journey, I think that if my journey taught me anything, is that there's no such thing as individual achievement. It is a collective achievement, and I think that what this means to me is everybody that has invested in me. And when I say in me, it is in the Arab American Muslim woman, whether it was in education, whether it's my family back home, whether it was my mentors here in the community, whether it was watching, women around me struggle, or whether it was having to deal with the backlash of different things that happen in our community, like 9/11 and whatnot. To me, that when we talk about the journey, I can only think of a collective achievement, that this is not in any way an individual achievement. Because if this was an individual thing, then I wouldn't be in the position that we are in today. And I say we, it is because I truly look at this as a representation of what makes me who I am, and that is my community as a whole. So it has been an absolute honor and a responsibility that I do not take lightly at all.
That's nice. I know you were appointed by Attorney General Donna Nessel in 2019, which is last year.
That's right.
Yes, and what happened at that time during this ceremony, the swearing-in ceremony, she said that you are uniquely qualified for this role. Does this make you have like a greater responsibility toward your Arab American community?
Absolutely. I think that it is because of my experiences, and of course, you know, when our Attorney General says a comment like that, I also do not take that lightly. This is somebody who I respect and quite frankly honored to work under her.
Yes.
She has been, you know, a pioneer for justice for all Michiganders, and, you know, has fought for all people. And all minorities, people of color, marginalized communities. So I do not take that responsibility lightly. When we talk about representation, you know, it's important to say that I serve all the people of Michigan. And the people of Michigan have a beautiful, colorful community. One of those communities is the Arab American community.
Yes.
So just like how I fight for you know, what people would say my community, absolutely every single day I fight for the people that maybe might not look at me as somebody from their community, no matter where they are in the state, no matter what their beliefs are, and no matter what their biases are. It is my responsibility to make sure that under the law I represent them and represent the state as a whole. And it is my absolute honor to represent the citizens of the state of Michigan.
And we are very proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, you argue some of the most complicated cases in the highest courts, and Flint water crisis is one of them. But we're going to talk about that later. But first, I want you to share with our viewers your journey to success and your upbringing. I know you immigrated at the age of 11 to the United States from Lebanon with your family.
That's right.
And I want to know how you could retain, or how at that time you tried to retain your, what do you call it, your identity from your birth country and try to fit into your new home.
You know, I think that when I think of my story, it's the story of so many in our nation. And it is the story of most, if you look back. And that is the story of an immigrant. You know, I grew up in Lebanon. I am from a beautiful village in the south called Arnoun. And I still have a family there. In fact, I still visit there. I took my kids there.
Do you have memories?
I have the best memories there. You know, and I have memories of growing up, also understanding that when we talk about justice, it wasn't something that was attainable. It was always something that, you know, not only did you have to fight for, but people were getting tired of the fight. And despite all of that, around me I was surrounded by people that were resilient, that, you know, for years and for centuries fought for justice without a result, but that never stopped them. You know, justice wasn't just a goal, something that people felt they must reach. Justice was something that was ingrained in our culture, in our religion.
Yes.
Empathy was part of justice. And that is something that I grew up with, you know, watching my grandmother, who didn't have much, who would pray, you know, may God keep everybody safe so we may be amongst those who are. So I think that, you know, my background, my roots, my values are precisely why I am the person that I am today.
So what was the most memorable thing in Lebanon to you? What do you remember the most there?
I definitely remember, I have good memories, and I have memories that still, you know, kind of give me pain till today.
Okay.
You know, my school was closed one day because a bombing. You know, Lebanon was under occupation at the time. And I remember we, you know, during the war, we sat in a malja in Beirut. And there was a priest there, along with an imam. And even despite the fact that so many things were happening above ground, there was such unity in how people can comfort each other and come together.
Yes.
Whether the person next to you is your child or not your child, there was a sense of unity. In fact, you know, my experience at my school and the fact that they didn't have the same opportunities that I later obtained when I came to the United States, I would always feel that guilt. That guilt of how easy access to education was in the community that I lived in. Even though, a disclaimer as well, even in the United States, we see that I had a good school because I was separated by a street called Tireman, as opposed to the schools on the other side of that street.
Okay, so you felt it a little bit here. Is that what you're saying?
I think as I grew older,
Yeah.
and as I went to college and whatnot, you start to see that what you saw back home, and when we talk about access to education, I thought that that was something that was unique to a third world or to a country that you know, is not in the same state as we were in right now. But I think that the older I got, I was able to see that some of those practices that we thought were only in countries far away from here were happening across the streets, or maybe some zip codes that are different than mine. That even though we lived in the same country, people here didn't have the same access to education that I did.
So the problem still exists.
It exists, absolutely.
Yes.
And you know, and I think it's so obvious, and you don't have to look far to find that when we talk about equity and access to opportunities and education, that's still something that we are fighting for here in the United States of America.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yeah.
but when we talk about memories, I have a great one. You know, I have great memories of my grandmother's hands making kishik for the for the entire and I don't know what you would call kishik
I have no idea
in English, but it's very good.
I know it's a very good dish, and one of my favorites.
Absolutely, you know, or her.
So she used to make that.
She used to make kishik, or the za'atar, or the way she used to, you know. Put the sesame seeds
always
over.
good memories about food.
Absolutely, anything about
food.
Absolutely.
So who would you like to give credit to today for mentoring you while growing up?
You know, it's hard to pin down. I think we started this interview by saying that there's no such thing as an individual achievement.
Of course not.
But I think that, you know, growing up for mentoring me, I had, you know, a grandmother who, it's definitely, you can't pin down to one person. I'd be lying if I could.
A few mentors, of
right?
course.
So my grandmother, with an elementary level education, taught her kids how to read and read poetry, right? My mother, who, you know, at a time where it wasn't really, you wouldn't hear of women going away for college, my mother did. And taught music and worked 3 jobs while she made sure that we're getting our education. So I think that there are many women around me in many ways were extremely inspirational.
Did you spend a lot of time with your grandma back home?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, everybody knows and even when I go back, you can't get me to leave Arnoun or her side. But I think but that doesn't take away from, you know, I think I attribute my success as well to the men in my life who were not only encouraged me to read or to go to school, but were my allies in every part of my success. And I think that I knew who I was because I constantly saw who I am in the eyes of my father, and I think that was so important. It was, you know, in a culture where sometimes you hear different, misconceptions about how women are treated,
Yes.
or what is expected of women, or the fact that our men are raised differently than our women. It was never like that in our home,
Yes.
and definitely not like that with my father. My father was my biggest advocate. My father made me feel more empowered because I was a woman. I never looked at being a woman as something that would hinder my success.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it was a positive. And I think that in my home, I saw that how we raise our sons like we raise our daughters and vice versa. And I think I attribute that to my father as well and all the great men in my life growing up.
Did you contribute some of your success to your father?
Very much
Very
so.
much.
Very, very, very much so. And that's precisely why.
Yes.
You know, if you know my father, he's my biggest cheerleader.
I would love to meet him and
He's
talk
amazing.
to him. I hope he's watching us right now.
he's amazing.
We have a question for you, but I think I'm going to cover that as well. How can you manage to be a mom and a Solicitor General?
That's a great question because,
Good
especially for the women out there, and I have to say this. I have to start with a story.
Yes.
Prior to my current position, when I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter Julia, I was pregnant. I was talking amongst the community with some people that I plan on applying for an appointment on the school board.
Yes.
And the reaction that I got, even from some women, were, "But you're pregnant."
Oh.
As if it were a disability.
Exactly.
I'll tell you, that made me want to do it even more. But here I was thinking, here I am, this superhero, a body literally making another human being, and people are looking at me because I am a woman, because I am pregnant, as if it is a disability, or, how could you do that being, a mother or pregnant?
Right.
I tell you, I take so much pride in, one, having a daughter and a son, Hadi. And the fact that when they want to play pretend, they play swearing their oath on the Quran like their mother. The fact that they ask me about my cases and that they know that their mother is representing children like those communities in Flint.
So they're so involved.
Absolutely.
Oh.
But I think I can do what I do because I have also a husband who is, just like my father, my ally. And just like we teach my kids to respect his work and look up to him because of his successes, it's reciprocated through their mother.
Yes.
And the quality time that we spend with our children, is maybe I compare it by, in a second, 1,000 years. But I never once have I felt that me being a Solicitor General, and I say this because I hope women are watching, is that this has been a sense of guilt for many women.
Yes.
And I'd be lying to you if I still don't hear it or don't feel it, because that's just innate in us.
We're all guilty of that.
It's innate in us.
We can't help it.
But when we see our children, and when I see what my children strive to do, when we say, your mother went to a program in Harvard, your father is, successful defense attorney or a magistrate, that's the norm.
Yes.
We can show our kids what the norm is, right? Instead of just telling them what it should be.
Yes.
And I absolutely love being the Solicitor General, and that in no way, in any way, has ever made me feel less than a mother. In fact, it's part of how I raise my children, and it has made me a better mother.
That's awesome. That's great. I have to say thank you for everybody who's ever watching right now. If you have any comments or questions for the Solicitor General Fadwa Hammoud, please, we'll answer. We'll try to answer all the questions. We have like a couple here. But what inspires you on a daily basis? What keeps you motivated?
The fight for justice. I think what keeps me motivated are my children, and knowing that they are going to grow up in this world, and fighting for a world that I want my children to grow up in.
Yes.
When we talk about being a mother, I hope that me being the Solicitor General, it's not about being the first. it's making sure that I'm not the last. And it's making sure that the obstacles that maybe I went through are easier for Julia. Or as a Muslim, they're easier for Hadi. I think my children inspire me. And I think that justice for all communities, specifically, you know, marginalized communities, communities that need me. I feel like I'm privileged to be in a position where, one, I work for an attorney general who fights for people every single day, and I have the opportunity to do that as well.
To be able to do that, for sure.
So that inspires me.
Yes.
I'm excited every single day. I think, you know,
to go out
today's
there and
another
help.
opportunity
Yes.
to help. And,
Yes.
you know.
That's awesome. I want to talk about your education. You finished law school, you obtained your law degree from Wayne State University, and you actually completed this amazing, prestigious program from Harvard Business School. It's a leader program, right? How have you benefited from this program?
So when we talk about education, I can't start at Wayne State, so
Okay,
I have to take
start
it
about
back.
University of Michigan?
No,
or
I have to take it back to Laurie and Fortson,
okay.
really.
We'll go back.
And, you know, I think what really helped me the most as a student is the fact that I was an immigrant who did not know the language when I moved here, and I was offered an opportunity in Dearborn Public Schools to as an English learner, to have the resources available
Sure.
to me for me to be where I'm at today. So I think that that's extremely important.
Yes.
And as an immigrant, as someone who, you know, didn't even know how to apply for scholarships, as someone whose parents couldn't afford, you know, to pay for a prestigious school, I got accepted into great universities, but I chose to go to Henry Ford College.
You started with Henry Ford.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it was a great opportunity. And for, you know, our status, our financial status at the time, you know, the credits that I was able to earn, I think that that really is what gave me the basis for my education.
Yes.
And from there on, I received a scholarship, went to U of M Dearborn, another great school.
Political science
Yes,
degree
political
from,
science
from
degree.
U of M? Yes.
And went to Wayne State Law School, where, you know, really you start to learn about, you know, the differences in education and, you know, different communities and the access that they have, right?
Yes.
But, you know, when we talk about the Harvard Business School Young Professionals Program, that was not just my success alone. That is success, truly was a success of our community and professionals in the business world recognizing, you know, young talent with the help of many that advocated for me in this program. And because of my community involvements as well, whether it is, you know, civic involvement, political
Yes.
involvements, my education, my work, my career, this was also another collective achievement. And when you meet with professionals at a school like Harvard, from all over the country, it is truly a humbling experience. And I'll tell you, we don't have enough chairs around the table. But that's why it's very important to build those bridges, make sure we are opening up those doors so people behind us have an easier time entering.
Yes, yes. Prior to being appointed as a Solicitor General, you were part of the Dearborn Public School
school board, and I worked for
board of trustee.
Yep.
Yes. How was the experience like as a board of trustee, and at the same time, did it help, you know, with your career, basically?
So prior to me being Solicitor General, I was Assistant Wayne County Prosecutor for Prosecutor Kim Worthy, who is one of the most inspirational women I know, who will probably watch this. And I owe much of who I am as well as a fighter, a prosecutor, or somebody that represents the people to her.
Okay.
And at that time, I also served on the Board of Education for Dearborn Public Schools and Henry Ford College.
Yes.
And it was probably one of the most inspiring, enriching experiences that I wouldn't trade for the world.
So it contributed to your success, obviously.
Yes, and I think, you know, when we talk about my success, it was the success of the students sometimes and the teachers and my colleagues that inspired you, that you have no other choice but to move forward. And you know, I mean, when we talk about Dearborn Public Schools, when we think about the future that we envision for our kids, or for Julia or Hadi, when we see some of the rhetoric going around our country, if you want to invest in your country, you invest in the schools and in our young people.
Yes.
Because those are the voters of tomorrow. Those are the politicians of tomorrow. Those are the leaders of tomorrow, the doctors, the teachers. And, you know, sometimes when we are so frustrated with what's happening in the present, we make sure that we are investing in those that we know are going to lead the future. And that inspired me.
Yes, yes.
It was amazing. It really was. And it was an experience that was so humbling and refreshing to see the amazing students we have and the leaders that are taking over tomorrow in the best of ways. So.
That's nice. And we have the question from Hassani, is that right? Hassan. What motivated you to go into law to begin with?
Oh, you got to ask my dad that. You know, I think when I was younger, it was you're either a doctor, maybe a dentist, and if you don't want to be, you know, a doctor or dentist,
lawyer. It has to be a lawyer,
your parents
right?
will be okay with being an engineer, right? And that is because I think the legal world in Lebanon, maybe, or overseas, is different than it is here. But I think there was something that was always innate in me to fight for others. I was never the type of person that could sit back, for example, and sometimes it got me in trouble, even at home, you know. I like speaking on being that voice for those that can't speak for themselves. And I think that is something that I've enjoyed.
So you had it in you, obviously.
I had it. I remember being younger and writing poems about it. But you know, when I first started college, I, you know, was taking organic chemistry classes. I was going to be a dentist because my mom already had this clinic in her head, and it was going to be pink, and I was going to be a dentist. And my father sat me down, and I was into my pre-med. I came home from school one day. My dad sat me down, and he said, "Fufu," which is what he calls me. And he said, if what you love to do is clean tables at restaurants, then make sure that every restaurant people go to in which you've cleaned those tables, that they can see their reflection in that table. If what you love to do is collect garbage off the street, then make sure that when people are cruising down the street that you picked up the garbage, that they see flowers instead and that it's spotless. He said, what do you love to do because it's not dentistry? And it was, in a sense, my father that kind of, you know,
he helped you probably,
and said, you go back to your counselor. And he said, you know, what are you going to do tomorrow about what you love to do? I said, I'm going to see my counselor, and I'm changing my degree. And it was the best thing I did.
But then you feel good because he said that to you?
I felt relief.
Yes.
I felt relief.
You needed that.
Because oftentimes, you know, we are peer pressured into norms.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, and we want to, I knew I was good at science. I was doing well. I hated it, but I was doing well. But I knew eventually deep in my heart I would go back into law.
So do you think, like, that was back then, but now do you feel or do you think that women or Arab American women have the freedom to choose who they become?
Absolutely.
Do you think it's getting better?
Absolutely. I think you don't have to look further from the amazing women in our community who, Hanan, you have been interviewing, you know, I think on a weekly basis.
Now, yes.
And you have, we have so many examples of women. You just have to go through all of the videos and see. And women in this community that inspire me every single day, right? And it's not a matter of can we, right? Women can. They're strong enough. They've been strong enough since day one.
Yes.
So absolutely, absolutely. Do we still have some cultural norms that, are still not accepting of that? Absolutely.
Yes, but some women feel like there is or they find gender equality elusive. Don't you agree?
I think that how could you not, in a world when, I'm sorry and I'll say this, you have, the person sometimes leading a country degrading women. We still live in a world where when we talk about gender equality, yes, we know that it is possible, but we know that we still have a long way to go. Even when you want to talk about equity in pay, if you look at the research and the statistics there, we definitely still have a long way to go.
So we have a long way to go.
But when we ask the question, do we think that women can? Absolutely.
I mean, our women have prospered
and
in
they
all
have
aspects of life nowadays.
And they have proven that.
Yes.
And they have proven that. So.
Yes, yes. So before we, I have to ask you one more question before we go, before we take a break. Have you ever felt marginalized?
Absolutely.
Okay, tell us.
I mean, absolutely, and I think that's what makes you, love this sort of work even more in terms of representing the people. And that is why it is so important when we look at different places to have people from different communities, including people from marginalized communities, in diverse workplaces because of what they can bring and add to the table. But I think that being marginalized is not an experience to me alone. I would feel selfish talking about my own experiences. I think every single person in my community, many of the kids that went to my high school, Fortson and others, have been marginalized. And
in a way or
that
another, maybe.
Absolutely.
Yes.
My mother has been marginalized. You probably, whether you like it or not, have been marginalized. Absolutely.
Yes.
Or have I been discriminated against? I'll tell you,
but how do you act on it?
I have received some threatening mail as the Solicitor General. And, because of who I am and because of my identity.
I mean, not just as a woman, as Arab American,
Absolutely. I mean, even as a prosecutor, I've prepared for a case to represent a victim, and when the victim found out that I was Muslim, they asked for another prosecutor. I didn't give up on that victim.
Okay.
But I think it's an opportunity that the only way we can change and break those stereotypes is to continue doing what we are doing and continue prospering in a way that we do. And in fact, every single person that has said a comment to me, and believe me, there's been plenty, I make sure that they know exactly what my heart is. Not necessarily through my conversation with them, but today I represent every single one of them, and I will continue to do so. And I think that we break those stereotypes, and we get our, yes, of course we're a marginalized community. That's not something unique to me.
But the key is not to stop.
But absolutely. But look at what we can do, right? And that is, I think, something that has made me and many other men and women and children in our communities and in all marginalized communities stronger.
Yes, yes. Before we take a break, before we continue our great conversation with you, I'd like to mention that Fadwa Hammoud is graciously volunteering some of her time to mentor one of our viewers, female viewers. Yeah. So if you're interested in doing that and sit down with Fadwa Hammoud, contact us at heyamentor@gmail.com, and we'll be back.
One, we are business consultants who equip leaders to lead at their highest level while building teams that work together and support their team and the leadership. We deliver customized business solutions that fit your company's needs, including business development and customized process solutions. Contact us today. Thank you.
أهلا وسهلا فيكم مجددا ببرنامج هيا، وأنا مع فدوى حمود محامي الاستئناف العام بولاية ميشيغن، ومنكمل الحديث معها بالإنجليش. Okay. Welcome back. So I'd like to talk about, as a Solicitor General, you handle some of the most complex cases in the nation now, because the whole world now knows about Flint water crisis that started in 2014 and has caused death and permanent illnesses for people of Flint. And this case has dragged forever, and it cost the state millions of dollars.
That's right.
You took on this case, and the charges were dropped. So can you just update us on this case?
So I told Hanan off air that I have to be very careful when I talk about the investigation, and that is to preserve the integrity of the work that we are doing, right? I currently lead the prosecution on the Flint water crisis. I do that with Prosecutor Kim Worthy, and it has been one of the biggest honors and most difficult as well in my life. Difficult from a humanitarian point of view, but also as an attorney and public service, a public servant that saw the millions of dollars that people benefited off of a crisis, right? And when we talk about the Flint water crisis, we are talking about the worst man-made environmental catastrophe in our nation's history.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, and in many others. And when we talk about, the effects of what happened or started in 2014, Flint was a marginalized community, and what Flint went through started way before 2014, whether it was through their economy, infrastructure, education, kind of what we see like other marginalized communities around the state. I can tell you that it is a case that is every little bit worth fighting for, and to me, this investigation and the team that I have on the Flint water prosecution are some of the most dedicated public servants that spend, in fact, they're working right now, that spend time around the clock working on this case.
So you uncovered new documents, obviously. Your team uncovered documents that previous investigators took many years and they did not even discover,
this is,
right?
The way we look, yes, the way we look at this.
That's what you cited.
Yes. The people of Flint deserve the same investigation as if there was lead poisoning in the White House or in Congress. Whatever investigation those people get, then that's the investigation that we are going to give to the citizens of Flint. And that was the promise from day one. Our Attorney General brought it back in-house, and no longer to a private firm that is benefiting or getting paid off of prosecution. And it was prosecution for profit. So when we talk about giving the citizens of Flint the investigation that they deserve, that is exactly what is happening right now. Though I cannot talk about the details, I can tell you that we are moving forward, and I am extremely proud of where we are at right now.
But you're starting, are you starting new investigation now, or?
We continued the investigation, and to this point we have the most comprehensive body of evidence that this team has ever had. And the way we approached this case was evidence is not up for negotiation. This is a crime that happened. We are executing search warrants. I executed a search warrant on my own office, which was unheard of. I sent officers to the Attorney General's office to receive, for what we knew to be evidence in this case.
Did you face any objection at all?
I mean, thankfully, it was not a move that many people take. I'll tell you, people that know me know that I will take every measure necessary, and not just me. I have a great team, that my team will take every measure necessary to make sure that we seek justice for the citizens of Flint. And I think that the contrary, people respected that, and they saw that for the first time, this case is being handled by law enforcement the way a prosecution is supposed to be handled.
Okay.
And, as a result of which, we went from less than 2 million documents to now about 20 million documents.
That's a lot of documents.
It's a lot of documents.
It's like unheard of.
And it is, there was recently a conference, like a relativity conference for e-discovery, and it's discovery with paper and whatnot. And the criminal case prosecution is the largest in terms of documents and evidence and discovery in the nation that's on a platform right now. So it's a lot of work.
But you're continuing. You're going to go full forth, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And, we will go where this investigation leads.
Okay.
And though I can't talk about the details right now, I tell you that
there is hope. There is justice.
Oh, extremely. There's
hope and justice.
I tell you that there is a fire for justice in every single one of us, and without talking about what's happening, good things are happening.
Have you ever felt like threatened, especially taking on this case at all? Or scared?
It makes it, when you look at the citizens of Flint and what they have been through, it makes it really hard to complain.
Okay.
About anything else. I mean, lead changes your DNA.
Yeah.
You have children for generations and generations and generations to come that are going to be affected by this crisis.
Yes.
People are still scared to shower in Flint or drink the water.
And we're not in the third world country.
And we're not, you wouldn't believe that we're not.
Yeah.
So have I received some pushback? Has it been hard? Yes. Is it, do I feel like I even have the room to complain? I am doing just fine. Many people are doing just fine when you look at what people are going through, especially in communities like Flint.
So working on this case, I'm sure it has taken a toll on your personal life and your family. How do you manage?
It is, it's one, I fight for the children of Flint more. I've had many conversations with my husband and my children. In fact, a couple days ago when I was in Flint, I got a call from Julia asking me if the kids there asked about her.
Oh.
I would hope that if something were to happen to my own children, my husband would hope that if something were to happen to our own children, that there are people fighting on their behalf. And none of us are immune from disasters and catastrophes and injustices. And we must make sure that, when my kids grow up, they'll know that their mother and their father, and they too as well in their help, made sure that they were part of this fight, that we did not just stand by in silence. And it would, to me, would be a catastrophe if one day my children grew up and knew that their father and I could change or could fight for, children like Flint.
Yes.
And had the opportunity to, and sat back in silence. That's not what I want my children to remember about me. And I'm sure, my husband would not.
Wish you the best of luck on this case. It's
Thank
a
you.
huge case, and
Yes.
it's crazy.
It is. It's mind-boggling, right?
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned a third world country, and you
we're
often
not,
wonder if this
unfortunately.
happened in a different zip code, would we be in the situation that we are in right now? You know, forget just, when we talk about the health crisis alone, the mistrust in government, you know, the psychological aspect of this is a you know, tragedy on its own too.
Yes. We're going to tackle a little bit about the opioid epidemic that's been, I mean, no community is immune to this epidemic, and it's causing, you know, people are dying, thousands of people are dying in the United States. What are your thoughts as a Solicitor General?
I mean, it is an epidemic that I can tell you is sweeping the nation. And we definitely have to make sure that we step up to the plate. And in order to do that, I've learned that with a crisis such as the opioid crisis, it starts at home. And it starts with understanding that, you know, especially in communities like our own communities, to us, health is from the neck down always. Even though, you know, in today's world, I think that we quickly learn, and other communities have caught on to this quicker than we have, that the most important part of our health is from the neck up. And it is so important, when we talk about this at a smaller scale, is that every single one of us is accountable. And in terms of our community involvement to stop this crisis, this epidemic. And on a larger scale, we need to start holding those opioid companies accountable for this crisis that is happening across the nation. And that is something that we are doing at the Attorney General's office that, you know, I can't go into detail.
You can't go into details about that? Not even a little? No.
I'd rather not. But, you know, hopefully soon, you know, we can talk more about that. Yeah. But, you know, we're in very sensitive stages of our fight against some, you know, major companies.
Okay.
But, you know, I think that, I don't think there's anyone that we talk to across the nation right now that doesn't recognize that this is a problem.
It is a problem.
That is, you know, just taking our country, whether, you know, I mean, I'll tell you, we see it from our doctors to, there's not one thing that you can pin it on, right? From overprescribing to companies putting substances, you know, that are extremely addictive, to lack of education.
It's out of control, basically.
And to depression, because mental health is real. And, you know, talking about this, not in a shameful way, but acknowledging that this is a sickness. Like, people get sick. Some people, you know, have a sickness, and we have to understand that this is exactly how we need to treat this. We can no longer talk about this and shame people. We have to start figuring out solutions and not knocking people down. And we have to start taking mental health seriously. To where, you know, we change our communities to where they know where to turn to, you know, and hopefully it's a place other than a pill. But I can't say this enough. Health in our communities has to stop being considered as something from our neck down. And we have to make sure that we look at this as a crisis and that we no longer brush it under the rug, and that we have the resources, you know, available. That's what we can do as a community. As a state, we have to start holding those accountable who are overprescribing, whether it is, you know, people in the medical community, or whether it's people out on the streets that are passing this out, whether it's in our schools, in our community centers, and it happens.
How can it be controlled?
I think that this is a combined joint effort with our law enforcement, but also with our families, that this is not, and with our children, that it is so important, one, you know, to speak up, right? But when we say how can it be controlled, I mean, there's one that is tangible, where you're working with law enforcement. But another is something that you really can't put your finger on it, other than we have to step up and start acknowledging that mental health is real.
Yes.
And people need help. And that seeking mental health help should not be something that is shameful. And that is still something that I say when we talk about the community as a whole.
We have to get rid of
we have to get better at
stigma. We have to get rid of that. I think this is the most important thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, so we're going to shift the subject now.
All right.
And talk about, like, you inspire so many women out there, and especially Arab American women. I wanted to give words of wisdom to those women who are watching us today.
Arab American, if this message is specifically for them, I tell every, young Arab American woman or Muslim woman that they are the reason why I do what I do, other than representing, our nation as a whole. I think that being a pioneer for women or representing women or opening up that door to make sure that this experience is not about the first. It's that I am not the last. I depend on them to keep moving forward. And that when we open doors, it's not just to bring more air in or, to refresh. It's because I'm waiting for that army, just like those before me have done for me, of women. I think that, I do understand, like, some of the questions that we received today. That we still have a long way to go as women. But I am so proud to be a strong Arab American woman surrounded by many of them. Those that I know, I haven't met one Arab American woman that, hasn't inspired me in one way or another. And, if they do look at me as a mentor, and I am honored by that, I want to remind them that there are generations coming, like my own very daughter, Julia, who's going to look for them to open up that door to, and after her and after her. So I consider myself to be one soldier in this, big army for justice, for women and whatnot. And I commend the men in our lives who have been our allies and who don't look at this as something that's out of the norm or, not ordinary. And that, this really has to be an effort where we support each other as women, and that we have, our allies support us as well.
This is important.
And I cannot tell you the joy I get when I see women in our community prosper. And I think the sky is the limit. And I think that my story is maybe going to be a footnote very soon. Because I cannot wait to see what the future holds for Arab American women.
We hope so,
in our community.
And I hope a lot of women are watching us tonight. It's a great advice from you. And I think America is ready for more women leaders.
Are they ready?
Yes. Yes.
They better watch out, because we're coming whether they're ready or not.
So we congratulate you
on
this position. You are an amazing lady and such an inspiration. What are your aspirations from now?
When I became a Solicitor General, I never planned on becoming a Solicitor General, right? My aspirations are to continue doing what I do best. And that is be the best me that I can be. And wherever that takes me, I'm ready for it. And that's my aspiration. It is to continue doing what I do on a daily basis, carrying everything that was instilled in me from my childhood. Continue doing what I do as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, and taking everything from that collective achievement. And wherever that takes me, I'm really excited. I'm excited and I'm ready for it. And right now, I couldn't be in a better place. And representing the people of the state of Michigan, representing the citizens of Flint. If the future holds anything, I hope that I see that maybe my successes made it easier for somebody else to accomplish theirs.
Yes.
Or made it the norm, that this is no longer the impossible, that it is just the norm.
Yes.
And that's what I hope for.
And the sky is the limit, as you said.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.
Wish you the best of luck. Everything.
Thank you, and thank you for
Thank
the
you.
show, and thank
Thank
you
you.
for inspiring women everywhere. I mean, you know, this show in specific through WhatsApp media, I know you have some soldiers behind the scene as well, and an ally for women, Ahsan Hashim. You know, and the work that you do, telling stories. And you know, spreading the word out through different stories from women from all over.
Yes. And each one has a story.
That I wish when I was younger I had seen more of that, to know that it was something that is within reach. And hopefully through this show you can send a message to women everywhere that you know,
that's the idea.
It is definitely within reach. So
Thank
I
you
commend
so
you for the
much.
work that you're doing.
Thank you. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate
And
you
that's
having
it for
me.
HEYA.
All right.
Thank you, and have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.